Hi everyone, welcome to Unjustified True Beliefs, the podcast in which we talk about our beliefs and we try to validate them using philosophy, psychology, and maths. Today we are discussing one of the beliefs which is very old. It comes from Indian mythology and it's one of the most holy sacred texts in India. It's the Bhagavad Gita, and we have Akash Verma with us on the podcast today, who has read it completely and can guide us. The essence we're trying to get out of this episode is what are the life hacks we can use from Bhagavad Gita in our daily lives? So, let me welcome everyone today and thanks for joining this podcast. Before we get into the main stuff, I would request you, if you've been listening to our podcast for a long time, to like and subscribe to us. Let me start with this question. Who here has any knowledge of Bhagavad Gita? If you have, what is your extent of knowledge? So, let me start with Shruti today.
I know what the Bhagavad Gita is. I think that it was something that in the battlefield, Arjuna is confused that on both sides it's his family, and winning or losing does not change anything for him. Either way, it's going to be a sad time, and he does not know whether it is the right thing to do. So this is when Krishna steps in to advise Arjuna about how he needs to, I think, tackle this situation and how it's his duty and responsibility to complete what he is meant to be doing. I think that's my understanding of what the Bhagavad Gita is. And in terms of what I know of the Bhagavad Gita, in addition to what I acquired over the last week, I think one of the only things I knew about the Bhagavad Gita is the phrase about performing your keep doing putting your efforts into things without focusing on the outcome and the result. That's something I have always struggled with in my life. I always put a lot of thought, and it only creates anxiety. It does not lead anywhere. It definitely hinders the effort that I put into what I'm doing. So that's something that my mom has been saying from when I'm young. Probably at the age of 14, 15 is when this whole focusing on the result than the process and the effort at hand had started. So I think that was the only recalling of Bhagavad Gita I have, in addition to, like I said, what I read over the last week. I think from whatever I read over the last week, I understand it's a book on. It looked like a book which teaches you the right way to live life. It it's some kind of a self help book in some way. It motivates you to do what is whatever you are supposed to be doing. I think it motivates you to do anything. It also helps you in identifying what is the right thing for you to do. It also helps you in picking up that goal and what are important and what is not important in your life. And yeah, I think it teaches you to how to become peaceful, happy, and content, which I think at some level most of your self-help books are doing. So it's like some source of motivation.
You started off saying that you don't know anything of Bhagavad Gita, and then you kind of summarized it, what it is. So,
No, I
whoa,
read it for a week, but so
keeping us
I
in the
think these
dark here,
can
huh?
be really challenged. These views can be challenged very easily. So that's what I meant. It's
Let's hear it from the expert. We'll come to Akash at the end. We'll go around and for the less informed, I would say, and then we'll come to Akash from his understanding of Bhagavad Gita and how he got inspired into reading it and what he has got out of it. So let's move to Karthik. What is your knowledge and what is your motivation so far with Bhagavad Gita? Like, how did you said you were interested in knowing about it? So let's hear a bit of backstory and what you know about it actually.
So, about the Bhagavad Gita itself, not much. Like Shruti said, that the only uh, part of it that I remember is the Karmanya Vadikaraste Maphaleshu Kadachana. That thing, because I can still hear my father's voice. He loves that saying that. So I that's something I can still hear him saying. But yeah, um, other than that, in in my childhood, my parents bought me this Amar Chitra Katha of the Mahabharat. So I read and in general, I've read the Mahabharat, a slightly less abridged version than the Amar Chitra Katha as well. So that's the extent of my relation to the Bhagavad Gita itself. But other than that, probably not much. Yeah, I did hear the Shailendra Bharati's version of it. He has this 14-hour video on YouTube uh, that I started listening to in preparation for this episode, but as expected, I couldn't get very far into it. But it was still very insightful about how people interpret the different things that were said in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's something I'm very interested in, like how our interpretation plays a role into what we think the Gita has to offer.
That saying is profound, and every Indian household know about it. Like, if you know about Bhagavad Gita, you know that, like, just work and do not expect the results out of your work. But there is more to Bhagavad Gita than that. And today's episode is to find out what are the other learnings apart from that main learning. And even I have some questions on that main learning as well. That it says, Krishna says that you should focus all your effort and your thoughts onto me when you're doing your work. I want to understand that aspect as well as we go along. Now let's get to Jyoti, and let's hear from her what is her knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and how much she knows about it.
So I think all I know about Bhagavad Gita has been pretty much covered over here. All I knew is that it's a book which tells us about what Lord Krishna, God Krishna, told Arjun before he went to battle. That is what I understood. And it is also not written by him. It was overheard by someone, and then someone went and told the king about it. So it is just a version of a version which was heard and then written. So now we are reading it. The thing is, like you mentioned, many Indian households do have that book, and it's been in my house, the Hindi and the English version, for like years. And I guess earlier it just looks like a scary text, right? Like there is scary from the size, right? Yeah. And now when I'm willing to read it, still, I mean, I have so many expectations from it. So I just want to read it when I don't have so many expectations from it, so that I do not tend to judge it too soon. And I guess that's why I've been waiting for so long. I just want to read it without having too many expectations, because yeah, I don't want to judge it too soon. So that's all I know. So I too read ACK books, but that was more of Ramayan. I never went to Mahabharat. I am a big Ramayan fan, not a Mahabharat fan, so I do not know anything about Mahabharat, and hence I do not know anything about the Bhagavad Gita. But I do plan to read it at some point.
I'm very curious that why is Gita the Sar of Mahabharata? Why is that chapter so important from the rest of Mahabharata? And what is the learning? So let's get to the main guy of today's episode. Let's get to Akash, and let's hear his story on how he got initiated with Bhagavad Gita.
Thanks, Farhan. Thanks, Rathi, Karthik, and Jyoti for organizing this such wonderful platform to discuss Bhagavad Gita, and that's also the beginning of the year itself. It's a good start of the year if it runs like that. To start with, I started Bhagavad Gita or Krishna consciousness back when I actually moved to Australia. In India, I was just like any random guy doing the daily rituals, going to temples to pray for God. Oh, please help me with my exams. Please help me with this particular work or something like that. Just remembering him during the what you call as key time when you're actually looking for maybe a job or maybe anything else that you actually want. It's kind of a business deal you end up doing. But then when I moved to Melbourne, I thought I don't want to make any deals. Let's understand. Now that I'm by myself, I can understand what my roots are. Like I'm not sure if you remember the bamboo tree. It only goes stronger and taller depending on how roots are spread deeper, right? It's like 5-10 years to actually get that strong root, and then you can see the shoot. It has shooted up maybe 100 feet, 50 feet along. So it's more I found out maybe I should first understand my roots, because if I'm overseas, and I'll be facing a lot of challenges back here in own country. There are a lot of guidance that you get from your family, friends. There might be good guidance, bad guidance, depending upon different situation. But when you come overseas, you're all by yourself. You don't know what kind of friends you make, what kind of your association has. Actually, gradually changes your whole life direction. So few friends may go like those may be entangled or may enjoy doing parties, and then you end up doing more parties. There might be few friends who are more studious. You end up doing more studies. So might be someone who is more business minded. So you try to get mingle around with them and go start to do something related to start. So I thought maybe once I understand these things, what is good and bad for me, and what will help me, and basically understand who am I, that will help me to challenge, or maybe also to channelize my career, my life in a better way. So that's how I started my journey, and I started visiting. First, started reading by myself. As Karthik said, it's quite on understanding the interpretation. Like for even if we go to universities and colleges, what we need is actually we need someone guidance, a teacher who actually guides us. Okay, do this, don't do this, do's and don'ts, and how you do it actually. Like for example, I was learning it myself on online. I realized I was playing string on a wrong direction. I was not holding the string in the right way actually. That's why I was struggling to play the guitar at first place. But then gradually, when I went to a teacher who taught me how to play guitar, he said, "What you did wrong. You should supposed to play old strings in this particular way." It's like, oh, okay. And now I'm that so used to it. It takes me like months to actually change my technique for a long time. So it's like more of it's kind of just a river bed. You keep on going on the same path. It keep on just flowing through the same direction. So that's how I actually understand. Like you need a good guidance of actually understanding these scriptures, because a lot of people interpret according to their own way, and then you may people say it's a book about fighting people. We should fight and this and that. Some people say it's more about peaceful. Some people say it's more about motivation or self-help. So it all have a different interpretation, and then what intention you approach with it, and what you get on that book. That's how it goes. For example, I started taking few classes, or maybe I would say started associating with this con when they had some sumptuous meals. After that, then I was got more interested. Okay, let's do some reading as well. I'm not here just to eat meals. Like as a student, you are always looking for where I can get good meals. You're just focusing on your studies, doing part-time job. Finally, I can have some meals here. And no one has to cook. That's how I actually started my journey. And then they actually started. There was no force on that. You have to start doing or start reading. They usually have that place there, reciting going on. They actually teaching it, just like a student and teacher. There's and then there are a lot of disciples and student listening it, asking back and forth questions. That's how the student life or the life is, right? We go and ask them questions. Okay, what I'm supposed to do? Am I supposed to do? Or if you have any confusion or what you have read from your previous life. I remember the Monash motto, like Saransh, and we studied from Monash University. The motto was like, unlearn what you have learned and relearn the new. I have to unlearn what I've done things wrong, and then relearn and to make it actually fit right now, and then actually implement it in my future life. And that's how actually it motivated me hunting jobs. And I thought I should first fix myself, then I will be able to get jobs and whatever I need to do, and even all the what you call as the essential parts you need in a life: a good family, a good wife, a good husband, or a good house, a good everything else. So that naturally comes. And going back is, I would say, making my root stronger was my more intention.
So, what do you mean by making your root stronger? So, when you say, I understand there is, so this is a concept which is difficult for me to comprehend. Like, I understand physical strength, I understand mental capability, also somewhat understand emotional stability. But what is spiritual strength, or what do you mean by making your root stronger spiritually?
I'd say spiritually making your root stronger is actually understanding who am I, what am I here, why am I doing here. Like we always like the purpose, what I want to do. Someone is like, my purpose is to play an excellent guitar, or maybe I'm the best coder I want to be, or be an Elon Musk and have some lot of invention going around. What's your purpose? What you want to do? for example, I would say Gita is keeping religion away. Gita is simply, as I said, you can consider it a self-help book. It is actually, I would say, a manual. Like if you buy a phone or a laptop, we go through instruction, right? How to use it, what these buttons do, if I do that and this like that. So Bhagavad Gita is actually that manual. If you read it, you actually understand how your body is made. What's your body structure? Like not on an anatomy basis, but on the basis of your, like it talks about in 12th and 13th chapters, the structure of what do you call it? Right. Is Rajasic and Sattvic. Like what kind of food you eat, what kind of association you have, what time you wake up, are you lazy, are you laid back person, are you energetic, you want to do a lot of things at the same time. So actually you are able to understand yourself and what category I sit. And then you also work on that, okay, what kind of job will be better for me? What kind of person you are, what kind of job is better? For example, I've seen a few coders who are like, they don't want to do coding, they are just there because it pays well, they just want to leisure around and work around things. So they are more energetic. There are a few people who are more communicative. They want to talk to people. So they are analyst field or more maybe consulting. So that's how I was able to understand myself, what field will be better for me. And then reading these scriptures under the proper guidance was quite important, because if I would read by myself, it would have given me completely different interpretation. And what would have read under the guidance gives me a good interpretation. Also, there are like hundreds and thousands of Bhagavad Gita copies I read before. And there are, in my opinion, there are like trillion copies. It is one of the best-seller book from ever since when it was written. But finding the right source with right interpretation is more important. As Sharan said previously, is keeping Krishna in the mind, keeping God in the mind and doing the activities. In that way, you're not attached to it. That's the essence about it, about reading Bhagavad Gita, of doing any activities, not being attached to what you're doing. As Shruti said, it's not about looking forward, being a more process-oriented rather than result-oriented. So it's that, like tuning yourself into that line. And making root stronger is just understanding that manual first. Who am I? Why am I here? What I'm supposed to do? And how am I supposed to do?
I see. So you mentioned that it's important to understand the right interpretation of the Gita, right? Like I'm just wondering, like, if I tomorrow if I end up reading the Gita on my own, is there a wrong way to interpret it at all, or is it very subjective? Like you stressed on the importance of guidance. Why? How do you think guidance? What is the most important thing that guidance would provide, as opposed to me just opening the Gita and reading it by myself?
Good question. One thing happened is, like, when I was reading with my few female friends, many friends, and we just end up reading. There's one intention they got about it is always talking about he should do that. It's about male perspective, and then some women more feminist or more like woman power, and I totally support that. So they think it as like, okay, what about women? What they are supposed to do? So they are getting saying like, oh, it is just more not feminist. It's not. It's more men. So like, okay, it's not about that. English, it was written back in like, I'm not sure which Bhagavad Gita you're reading. I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So it's actually that authentic I found to be most related to myself. This English was written in 1960s. That time it was more English on a male dominant. So it was more of male. So he is supposed to do that and that perspective. And then they actually, when you explain, like, okay, then it's all right. Because it was Old English, and according to New English, you can consider if it is a husband or a wife talking about, then it should be just replace your sexes. So it's not too much of stress on that. Then the feminist question has been just there. Other than that, was few key points are there. Though the purport in the scriptures, it actually gives you detailed explanation, but when you actually talk to people, people, you have some questions, like whatever you read, you have some question on that. You are unable to clear your thoughts on those questions. But when you have the right guidance, when you have right association, you can talk to them and ask them those questions. Okay, I was just wondering, I was reading this particular text. Like, for example, you mentioned the Karma Nevadikara So it's more focusing upon, we only remember that term because it's more broadcasted throughout all TV series and movies every single time in the background music. But the essence is about not being attached, speaking more about process oriented and also focusing on that, keeping Krishna in the mind, keeping God in mind. I'm doing this work and I'm not doing it for my own enjoyment, I'm doing for Him. And then that's what the Krishna says throughout the book. Do with me in your thoughts, and no matter what happens, you will come to me and you don't have to worry. Whether it's auspicious or inauspicious, you don't have to get the result or what talk about the karma, the negative or the positive. You do with a good heart. Whatever will happen, at the end you will be fine. Even in the 18th chapter, Krishna says, Sarvadaritajya Mamamekam Sarvamrita. Aham Tam Sarva Papibhyo Bhuksham. So no matter what happens, you can go any religion, any creed, caste, whatever you want to be. You come into my surrender, and then I'll take care of all the things and give you all the protection. And even if you visit temples, you can see your God, like deities are one hand like this and one hand like this, actually saying, okay, calm down, you are protected in this, actually giving you something written, like Lord Ganesha holding laddus in hands, or Lakshmi ji holding some gold coins or something like that. So in similar way, okay, holding a knife or through or mace or something, giving protection. That's how you calm down and say, I'm under your surrender, do what you want to do.
It's just like learning anything else, right? Like if you were to learn physics, you would go to a teacher. You can always try reading it by yourself, but with the right guidance, there's definitely going to be a difference in how you can learn. You will eventually learn physics if you read it by yourself. You can stumble upon it multiple times. You'll take the right path, wrong path, eventually get on path. I think reading the Bhagavad Gita is the same thing. If there is somebody to teach you, possibly you can start off better. Once you're equipped better to understand physics, you can read yourself. So probably that holds for even Bhagavad Gita. Once you understand the basic essence of it, you can definitely, I think, go back, read, and build your own interpretations. Maybe once you're in that space to be able to make that judgment on what the book is about and what it holds for you.
I was actually thinking the same thing that you said, comparing it to something that I would have learned, like physics or maths or probability. But that implies to say that there is a right way, or like I would say, there's a right way to learn physics. There's a objective. This is the right thing that you're supposed to learn in physics. And if you read it and you do not arrive to that conclusion, you're simply wrong. I'm not sure that assumption holds true with the Bhagavad Gita as well. Like, is there a right way to learn the Bhagavad Gita? Or because there is definitely, for all of the sciences at least, there is a right way to do them. And that's why you need a teacher, because there is an established, no matter which teacher you go to, the Pythagoras theorem will be taught the same way. But that is that true for the Bhagavad Gita?
I'll ask the question in a different way. So let me do that. Yep. So again, like I think the last point Karthik said, I'll just want to say what I think of that. Like there's a right answer to a physics, like let's take a problem, but there are many ways to do it. So that is how I would say it. So my question is that I think Akash mentioned sometime earlier that if you want peace from it, you will get peace from it. But if you're going like if you go with it with the intention to fight, probably that is what it will teach you. So if it is available, that flexibility is available in the Bhagavad Gita, then I'm not sure if there is a right way to do it, because if I want to fight and I go to the Gita for guidance, will it change my opinion and make me a peaceful person? Or will it teach me how to fight better? Because you do have to fight sometimes in life. I'm not talking about like war and knives and stuff, but like just life. So you have to push back and fight sometimes in life. So will Gita change me? my opinions or my behavior into a more peaceful person, or will it just teach me to be a better fighter?
It will actually, I would say it's more about consciousness. What it focuses on about what consciousness you work activity. Like for example, I would say everyone loves, like they think, they know it, that's true, that their mother cooks the best meal ever. No one can meet their meals. Why does that happen? Because the consciousness of your mother is giving that, putting that love. My daughter, my son is going to eat this meal, and I'm going to make it to the best whatever I can do with whatever ingredients I have. And when you have that meal, it's like amazing, delicious. But if you have the same ingredients and you cook it yourself, you're trying to consciously trying to just make it like, okay, I have to office jana hai. I have to rush to work, I have to work, I have to work assignments, and just complete and just eat it. So you don't feel that same taste. So what it teaches you is consciously you do that activity. Like when Arjuna was or like confused what I'm supposed to do. Like fighting, as I said, even if you want to fight. The confusion is whether to fight or not. If I want to peace down, whether to be peace down or not. What kind of peace you are actually looking for. Even if someone is beating a lady on the street and you just want to be calm, yeah, no worries, I'm away from everyone. That is not peace. You have to stand for the right activity, stand for the right people, or stand for the right orientation. What I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to do. So it's that is talking about the consciousness, what consciousness you perceive, what consciousness you have. And with that consciousness, if you work your activity, you will find successful. Or failure doesn't matter because you're not looking for the result. You're just more looking for doing that activity consciously. And when you have that teacher or the guidance, you are able to channelize your consciousness in the right way.
Is it safe to assume that if I guess it's just interpretations, like what I can get from the Gita right now will be might I might get something different or something more, or actually something different, more definitely, but what I'm trying to say is I might understand it differently after 10 years.
Yes, because you have more 10 years of work experience or 10 years of life experience, right?
Definitely.
You would see, oh, I
Yeah.
should have done that better.
Yes.
Or maybe I should have done that way better or could have been better.
Mhm.
So maybe you may have grit or something like that.
Mhm.
Oh shit, I shouldn't have done that.
Mhm.
Or I could have actually read it 10 years before. I could have solved my problem easily.
Yep, exactly.
So with life experience, take good and bad, positives and negatives, and then you implement in your future life or give the same knowledge to your friends or your dependents, give the same knowledge to them. And that's why people say like either you read it in the beginning, that's better. That's what I found out. It's really better when you read it in the beginning rather than the end, because at the end you're like, oh no, I should have done something different. That could have like literally changed your whole life channel. And that's actually what we are. It's more about just making those right choices at the right time.
Mhm.
Like if I made a different choice, I would have been maybe in India or maybe in Canada or maybe somewhere else. I don't know.
Mhm.
I made a different choice. I mean, yeah. So it's all about having the right choice and having that consciousness or having that knowledge to able to make those decisions. This is what actually Arjuna is asking. Can you help me understand? So for us, it may take weeks, months, and hours to read it. But that actually Bhagavad Gita was read in just 45 minutes.
Mhm.
That's it. 45 minutes, conversation is over. It's end of just motivational talk. And we are taking like so long just trying to understand what it's trying to say.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
That's really interesting. You said it helps in decision making. So I want to ask you, what are the insights, some of the key insights, or some of the maybe the mantras or some chapters which were most influential to you in your life and they have helped you to make better decisions? So that is the main intent of today's podcast, so that we can get some life hacks from this Bhagavad Gita and get some, some main learnings or insights which you use in your daily life to make better decisions.
There are a few chapters or few texts that I like. One of the texts focuses on like your mind is your enemy and your mind is your friend as well. So like if I want to go for exercise now, like it's New Year resolution, I want to go for gym or exercise first thing in the morning. But am I able to sustain it throughout the year? Am I able to sustain it for a couple of months or not? Then making that decision is like we all focus on like artificial intelligence. We have our intelligence. Bhagavad Gita speaks that this is our body machine, basically, and you have a soul sitting in there trying to work around, do your activities, and making sure my intelligence work in the right direction. Maybe hitting that snooze button, whether my mind takes over it or whether I know I'm not going to snooze. I'm gonna go up, brush my teeth, and gonna hit the road. So that decision making is helps in or making your intelligence more stronger. The second thing I like was is of it talks about how to be do your duties without considering the environment. Like for example, whether it's winter or summer, you still have to stick to your duties. That is one interesting or that one actually stick to me a lot. Like even in the summer or even it's winter, I'm just gonna go and take my shower in morning 6 o'clock. That's what I'm going to do. I have to go to work. I'm going to work, no matter what situation arises. So depending upon whether it is a COVID or anything that comes up, what I'm supposed to do, am I supposed to stay home and stay safe, or am I take precaution and work on my plans? Because staying home, I can't stay in home for throughout my life. So those few things, and one of the last thing is just surrender. Everything will happen. You have to work. Basically, it's not like you don't work at all. You work, but having that consciousness, things will fall at place. Because you see, like I have my plans. We have all our different plans, and then we go to temples or churches or mosques, anything like ask them, can you work on, put your energy and work on that plan? That doesn't happen. So actually, God has his own plan. He wants our energy to work upon it and work on those lines. That's what actually stick to me.
Great, Akash. You have mentored me in Monash and you're still mentoring me. So that tradition keeps on. So thanks. These are helpful. Now I want to ask everyone else what was your main learning from Bhagavad Gita or maybe from this conversation so far?
Uh, I'll go. I think one of the things that I read during the week was why we should read Bhagavad Gita. Uh, it was again someone talking about it, and they said there's a difference between making a life and making a living. So what you learn about everyday, day-to-day life, like to you learn English, you learn coding, all of these things that you learn is for making a life. What Bhagavad Gita, sorry, making a living. Sorry, my bad. It is making a living. What Bhagavad Gita teaches you is how to make a life. Just like you need to learn that, you also need to put your energies into learning this. So that way you'll have a more meaningful, happy, peaceful life. I think that kind of struck the chord with me. And one of the other things that Akash mentioned was your mind is your power. It's in your control and it's also your enemy. I came across something very similar yesterday, in fact, where I also got the same snooze example, in fact, where they said that how that should not be the first thing you do because you're letting your mind take control over whatever you have decided the previous night. And I tried that today actually. I woke up to one alarm snooze only because I remembered that and I was like, let me bring this into my life. And that's probably why I'm a little more jumpy today than every day. So, and in general, I think, yeah, in general, it works for me when I hear what is the right thing to do. Just like any other practice in life, when you're told this is what is one way of living life, or if you open yourself to those ideologies and those suggestions and maybe try them in your life and it might work for you. Again, same thing, like if somebody tells you uh, this trick in coding works and then you do it and it works for you, right? So same way, I think even living a life, when you welcome other ideologies and how you can probably lead a better life, if you try and practice them, it can just lead to a happier life. I think that's another thing that I got from this.
So I think the point Akash mentioned in the end, it reminds me of something we were talking about in the first season of this podcast. What are we, mind, body, or emotions? And I think by the end of that episode, I had reached that conclusion that my mind, body, and emotions are just tools which can either help me or they can deter me from what I want to do. And that is kind of what I think Akash wanted to say, is said that it can either be your friend or your enemy. So you need to know how to use them, and Gita is the manual. So I guess I'm just connecting different points or thoughts about which I have had, and even in this podcast. So yes, I think I will definitely want to read Gita, and I thought I could probably read it later when I'm in a better space to not have too many expectations from it. But I think what Akash said is also right, that the later you read it, the more regrets you might have, or it's just too late. Like, why not read it before? Because if it's a manual, then what's the point of reading it later in life? Because, yeah, you have the tools now, so why not read the manual? So, yes, you've convinced me. Thank you.
As for me, one thing, the thing that struck out most, what Akash was saying was how the Gita is just a conversation that happened for 45 minutes between Krishna and Arjuna, and it is now considered to be a manual for life, a 45-minute conversation, right? And so the fact that people can derive meaning out of a 45-minute conversation is a marvel, a, for humans being able to be always learning, or even from the smallest of things. So it is a marvel of our own minds as well, right? That people can figure out meaning from the smallest of words. Every word dissected in that 45-minute conversation can be a page or chapter of its own. I'm So I guess it also left me with a few questions. One of them is like, if someone had asked me that what can I get from probability by learning probability that I don't get today. So I will probably have a spiel for him that says that, you know what, this, you think you understand this and think this is common sense or think this is intuitive. But if you read probability, well, you will understand that common sense is not right at this moment. And I want to understand that with that 45-minute thing, there must be something in there that requires us to have guidance to understand a 45 minutes conversation. There is something so deep inside there that you will need guidance to understand it. So there's something non-intuitive about it, that if it was common sense, it would not be so widely known. There must be something that you cannot understand with just 5 minutes of thinking of your own. There must be something deeper than that, and that is something I want to understand by my own.
I would say that's quite on the point. It's, as you said, it's about conversation when you discuss. Like previously, hundreds and thousands of years before, when India was not like invaded, people used to sit and talk and discuss these things, explore our mind, and actually what you learned throughout your day from your life. And then they used to discuss on a platform on day-to-day basis, like we are on live studio right now. So they used to discuss these thoughts, what my learning, what my implementation, and then they used to converse, okay, maybe you are right, maybe he's right, or something like that. But right now we are just more stuck into earning our bread and butter. We totally forgot about that. And the second thing is trying to focus on like uh, one of the quotes that I remember was like, you try to be as strong as a tree throughout your life. This struck me as strong. Be strong as a tree and be as humble as a grass. And keep in your remember, God is there. He'll protect you. No matter what religion you want to follow, it's all open. And there's no force on anyone, like throughout the Sanatana or Krishna consciousness, anything. There's no forced conversion. God himself doesn't want forcefully come anyone to it. If someone wants to enjoy, they enjoy. If someone wants a different lifestyle, they have different lifestyle. But gradually come over. I found Bhagavad Gita to be a kind of a lift that I can jump from one to second, third, fourth floor, walk gradually, or I can just press a button, jump myself into lift and head to the top floor or whatever floor I want to do. So that is a good way to start with Gita. Maybe this year you can start reading it, or maybe next, whenever you feel like it. and uh, connecting with people, discussing what you learn, what your life is, or maybe just having the end of day reflection will help. Okay, what did I do? Was I able to do something good? Not out of it. Am I able to connect some dots? Maybe, maybe not. So you can think from these different perspectives and see what exactly works for you. And you have the life, body, and emotions. Maybe the fourth perspective is also there, that is soul. Like the emotions are temporary, the body is temporary, mind is also there. But what about the soul? Because at the end, even if you think whether the hit button, as you said, the snooze hit button, is it me pressing it? My intelligence telling me, oh, sleep on, or my mind telling me, just sleep on, my intelligence saying, I need to work. And the final decision is actually taken by who? Who is that final decision maker? Can think on that as well. Like whether to hit or not to hit. You can check it in for your own life. Maybe you can add a fourth person.
Hmm. That's exactly what we discussed on that episode. So maybe you have heard that episode and you're coming back. So thanks a lot, guys. This was really insightful, helpful, and I would also like to add one part which most profound impact on me from Bhagavad Gita, which was the relationship, the way they established the relationship between attachment or lust to anger, anger to delusion, delusion to false memory, and false memory to irrationality. That depth of thinking to get how we can be irrational by having attachments. I like just the level of things they connected to get to that level of insight. I was very impressed by that, and that it kind of inspired me to read more on it, to get to, okay, how can my attachment lead to such drastic outcomes? And then I'm seeing this some of these relationships in my daily life now. So thanks a lot. It's been really helpful. I want to read more in Bhagavad Gita. I want to read more other sacred texts in different languages, because Hinduism doesn't discriminate between different languages. If you want to read Bible or if want to read Quran, you can go ahead and learn something out of it. And one thing which I've observed is you talked about mindfulness and consciousness and talked about stoicism in some aspect. So I think there are universal topics just written in different languages, just presented in different ways, but it all comes back to the same key learning. So thanks for your participation. Thanks for teaching us, enlightening us a bit on Bhagavad Gita. And if you want to listen to more of our podcast, please subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting session and share it with your friend. So thanks a lot, guys, and see you another time.